On March 8, 2014, Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 lifted off from Kuala Lumpur, heading for Beijing. Everything on the flight deck appeared routine. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a 53-year-old veteran and one of the airline's most senior pilots, was in command of the Boeing 777. That routine ended at 1:21 a.m. Seconds after the aircraft reached the edge of Vietnamese airspace, its signal vanished from civilian radar screens. The disappearance triggered an immediate international response. Working on the assumption that the plane crashed along its intended flight path, a $160 million search operation was launched. Rescue ships, like the one pictured here, began patrolling the South China Sea. Over the following weeks, 34 ships and 28 aircraft from 7 countries searched the water. Despite this massive mobilization, they found no wreckage, no oil slicks, and no trace of the 239 people on board. This created a gap in the global surveillance net. Investigators were forced to reconcile a basic contradiction. How does a massive commercial airliner, equipped with multiple redundant tracking systems, simply cease to exist in a monitored sky? Hard evidence of the plane's movements finally emerged from military radar logs. This data proved that shortly after vanishing from civilian screens, the aircraft made a deliberate 180-degree turn, flying back over the Malaysian peninsula toward the Andaman Islands. This maneuver required active input at the controls. Whoever was flying the plane directed it precisely along the border between Thailand and Malaysia, a path that exploited the gaps between each country's radar jurisdiction to avoid detection. While the turn suggests an initial manual response to an onboard emergency, investigators believe the situation soon became unrecoverable. In the mass hypoxia theory, a catastrophic loss of cabin pressure likely followed the turn, gradually draining the oxygen and leaving everyone on board unconscious. With the crew incapacitated, the plane continued on autopilot. No longer a piloted flight, but a ghost plane, a 300-ton machine, flying silently through the night until its engines ran out of fuel. This transition to autopilot meant the aircraft was no longer being steered erratically by a human. Instead, its final hours followed a rigid, predictable path, governed by its internal computer, a path that could be reconstructed if investigators could find the right data. That data was found in a series of automated handshakes. Even though the primary communication systems were off, the plane's terminal independently attempted to connect with an Inmarsat satellite 7 times over the course of the flight. Engineers used the timing of these signals to calculate the distance between the satellite and the aircraft. By measuring the specific angle of the satellite's antenna at each handshake, they mapped a series of concentric rings across the globe where the plane must have been located. The 7th and final handshake occurred when the fuel was exhausted. This resulted in the 7th arc, a specific curved region 2,000 kilometers west of Australia. This isolated stretch of the southern Indian Ocean became the primary focus of the search. The first physical confirmation of this data arrived in 2015. A flaperon, a portion of the plane's wing, was discovered washed up on the shores of Reunion Island, near Madagascar. Oceanographers then performed a drift analysis, using the currents shown on this map to trace the wing's journey. By calculating the speed and direction of the water, they found the wreckage's origin point aligned with the same coordinates identified by the satellite data. The physical evidence and the digital logs converged on a single conclusion. Every data point indicated that MH370 ended its flight in the deep waters of the southern Indian Ocean, far from its original destination. In 2022, aerospace engineer Richard Godfrey proposed a new method to refine this location using WSPR-net, a global network of amateur radio waves. This network functions like an invisible tripwire. When an aircraft flies through these radio signals, it creates minute disturbances in the transmission. Reviewing archived WSPR data from that night, Godfrey looked for the specific signal snaps caused by the Boeing 777. Layering these disturbances over the radar path, the satellite arc, and ocean drift currents, he pinpointed a single intersection point on the seafloor. This cross-referencing narrowed the search area to a 40 nautical mile radius. Within this specific zone, the aircraft is believed to lie 4 kilometers underwater, resting among the cliffs and volcanoes of the ocean floor. Searching this depth requires specialized equipment. Autonomous underwater vehicles, like the Abyss model pictured here, are designed to navigate this rugged terrain. using high-resolution sonar to scan the seafloor for debris fields that are invisible from the surface. The investigation has moved from searching the entire ocean to identifying a specific target. While the aircraft has yet to be recovered, the synthesis of satellite, radar, and radio data has provided a definitive path for the next search, bringing investigators closer to the physical evidence needed to explain the fate of Flight MH370.